Good morning, students. In the last class we have discussed about the bony framework skeleton that gives specific shape to the body. The bony framework or skeleton gives specific shape to the body. The skeleton is made up of three things: bones, joints and cartilage. Skeleton is made up of bones, joints and cartilage. To our skeleton, muscles are attached. Muscles are present in attached condition. These muscles are known as skeletal muscles. Muscle makes the bones to move. Muscle makes the bone to move by the muscular contraction and relaxation. Our bones are having muscles attached to them. Our skeletal bones are having attached muscles with them. These muscles are known as skeletal muscles since they are attached to the skeleton. Each skeletal muscle makes the bone to move by the muscular contraction and relaxation. For every bone, a pair of muscles are attached. For every bone, a pair of muscles are attached. For every bone, a pair of muscles are present in attached condition. Out of these two muscles, if one is contracting, the other one relaxes. For every bone, a pair of muscles are attached. Muscles always work in pairs. When one muscle is in contracting condition, its opposite muscle will be in its relaxing condition. When muscle contracts, then that contracted muscle becomes shorter, stiffer and thicker. When a muscle contracts, then the contracted muscle becomes shorter, stiffer and thicker. The contracted muscle pulls the bone in its direction. To move the bone in opposite direction, the first muscle it relaxes and the opposite muscle will contract. Then the bone is pulled in opposite direction. Muscle can only pull, it cannot push. Muscle can only pull, it cannot push. To make a bone move, a pair of muscles have to work together. To make a bone move, a pair of muscles have to work together. Now let us learn about gait of animals. What does it mean by gait? Gait is manner of movement. How an animal moves. What is its manner of movement? The manner of movement is also known as gait. There are two different types of animals based on their structure related to movement. Animals that have only muscles but they do not have any bones, like earthworm, snail, cockroach, etc. These animals, they have only muscles, they do not have bones. And second type, animals that have both muscles and bones. Means they have muscles as well as bones also. Example, birds, fishes, frogs, snakes, buffaloes, humans, horses, and so on. Many are there. Why do we learn about the animals that have only muscles and no bones? And why do we have to learn about the animals that have both muscles and bones? The main reason is, if an animal is having both muscles and bones, then it is going to use muscles to be pulled, bones to be pulled by the muscles and execute the movement. If an animal is having both muscles and bones, then it is going to use the muscles to pull the bones to execute movement. If an animal is having only muscles, then muscles only make the animal to move by their contraction and relaxation. Whether the animal is having both muscles and bones, or if the animal is having only muscles, contraction and relaxation of muscles is compulsory for making movement. Let us learn about the gait of earthworm. Earthworm, it generally can be found in moist soil, especially during rainy season. Earthworm is also called natural plow because a plow lifts the soil up and make the soil loosened so that air can enter inside. Like how a plow lifts the soil up and make the soil loosened, in the same way, earthworm naturally it makes the soil to become loosened like a plow. So it is called natural plow. And because of plow, the soil gets loosened, and this loosened soil will be useful for farmers for cultivation, as earthworm helps the soil to get loosened as well as to make the nutrients available for growing crops. Earthworm is called friend of farmer. If you take the structure of earthworm, earthworm is made up of many rings or segmented. Earthworm is made up of many rings or segments. So the body of the earthworm appears segmented, and these segments or rings are joined end to end. Earthworm has no bones. It it has only muscles, and muscles of the earthworm help extend the body and shorten the body. Muscles of earthworm help extend the body and shorten the body. Let us try to understand the gait of earthworm. Let us assume the body of earthworm into two parts. First half are front portion and second half are back portion or a rear portion. Back or rear portion. So this is the normal earthworm when it is at rest. Earthworm at rest. While making movement, first the rear part is fixed or the back part is fixed, and the front part it is released and extended. Front part of the body is released and extended. Then the front extended part will be fixed to the ground and the rear part will be released. Now, as the front part is fixed to the ground, the rear part appears lengthier. Now, keeping the front part fixed, the rear extended part will be pulled to front, so that these three steps are making the earthworm to move forward. By repeating again keeping the rear part fixed, front part extended, then front part fixed and rear part released, and front part fixed, rear part pulled front. Repetition of these three steps by the muscular expansions and contractions of earthworm make the earthworm move through the soil or move through the water or move on the ground. The body of earthworm releases a slimy, means skidding substance. This slimy substance helps the movement of the earthworm. The slimy substance helps the earthworm to easily move on the ground. So, repetition of these three steps make the earthworm to move through the soil or move through water or move on land. The body of earthworm releases a slimy substance. This slimy substance reduces the friction for the smooth movement of the earthworm. So, the released slimy substance by the earthworm helps in its movement. Slimy substance helps the earthworm in its movement. The slimy substance helps the earthworm in its movement. This is about the gait of earthworm. What did we learn today? Our skeleton is made up of bones, joints and cartilage. Made of bones, joints and cartilage. And cartilage is the first point that we have learnt. And what makes the bones to move the way they do? Muscle makes the bone to move. Makes the bone to move. Our skeleton is attached with which muscles? Skeletal muscles. Skeletal muscles. And muscles, what is the major property of the muscles that makes the bones to move? Contraction and relaxation. Skeletal muscles contract and relax. Their contraction and relaxation. What is contraction? Shortening of muscle is known as contraction. Shortening of muscle. Shortening of muscle is known as contraction. Shortening of muscle is known as contraction. And how many muscles are attached for each bone? A pair of muscles are attached. A pair of muscles are attached to each bone. To each bone. A pair of muscles are attached to each bone. Muscles always work in pairs. Muscles always work in pairs. Muscles always work in pairs. In the paired working, if a muscle is contracted, what will it happen? When muscle contracts, it becomes shorter, stiffer and thicker. Contraction causes the muscle. Contraction causes the muscle to become shorter, stiffer, and thicker. Contraction of muscle causes it to become shorter, stiffer and thicker. Out of the two muscles or in a pair of muscles, when one muscle is contracted, the contracted muscle pull the bone in its direction. Contracted muscle pull the bone. Contracted muscle pulls the bone in its direction, and opposite muscle relaxes. Then the opposite muscle gets contracted and the bone will be pulled in opposite direction, right? Then opposite muscle contracts and the first muscle relaxes, and the bone moves in opposite direction. One moves in opposite direction. Muscles can only pull. Muscles can only pull the bones. Pull the bones. They cannot push the bones. Only pull the bones. They cannot push the bones. So to move a bone, a pair of muscles has to work together. Right? And if you take the animals, based on the structures for their movement, they are of two types. Animals with only muscles and animals with both muscles and bones. Animals with no bones and with only muscles. Only muscles. Animals with both muscles and bones. These are the two types. Animals with no bones and only with muscles. Example are earthworm, snail, cockroach, etc. Animals with both muscles and bones. Examples are fishes, frogs, snakes, birds, buffaloes, humans like animals. The manner of movement is known as gait. Since there are different structures are associated with different animals have different types of gaits. Right? If you take earthworm has only muscles, no bones are present in it. Earthworm is also called natural plow and friend of farmer. Earthworm is also called natural plow and friend of farmer. Why? Because it loosens the soil like a plow, and as it loosens the soil like a plow, it helps in the cultivation of crops. So it is called natural plow, as well as also it is called friend of farmer. Body of earthworm has many rings. Which are joined end to end. And it has no bones. Only muscles help to extend the body and shorten the body. No bones. Muscles help extend the body and shorten the body. Muscles help extend the body and shorten the body. During the movement of the earthworm, three things happen. First, the front back portions we need to consider. As a first step, back portion is fixed. Back fixed, front extended. This is the first step. Second step, front fixed and back released. Keeping the front fixed again. Front fixed, back is pulled forward. A repetition of these three steps for several times by the expansions and contractions of earthworm. Make the earthworm to move through the soil or to move through the water or to move on the ground. The body of the earthworm, it secretes it releases a slimy substance that helps to reduce the friction while the earthworm is on its move. As friction is reduced by the slimy substance, the earthworm can move through the soil or through the water or on the ground easily. Okay. About the gait of other animals and about even how the earthworm is able to fix its body either in its front end or in its rear end. Okay. And what all the benefits are provided by the earthworm, we will learn in the coming class. Thank you.